What's going on, guys? Jordan Richards here from Destination Devy, here to bring you your Dynasty Stock Watch heading into Week 7. Week 6 saw another breakout performance from a key rookie that we all loved in the offseason. We saw a breakout performance finally from Kenyon Drake. And as well, we saw a big performance actually in Week 5 from one receiver I'm going to touch on a little bit later. So let's get into the video. First player I want to touch on is Kenyon Drake, the running back for the Arizona Cardinals. And the reason why is because he blew up on Monday night playing against the woeful Dallas Cowboys. The real question is, how do we value Kenyon Drake now? We finally have been waiting for this big game to happen, and we just haven't seen enough from Drake, especially in the passing game. Chase Edmonds has been the primary option there, especially when you talk about the red zone. And so how do we handle Drake, especially in Dynasty? Because he was a highly priced asset. He was a second, third round pick for a lot of people, potentially fourth round pick. And now, what do you do? If you're an owner of Drake, do you hold on to him? Do you try and trade him? And in my opinion, he's a guy you have to think about trading because he's not even playing that well. Even with this massive performance, he's still only RB26 in PPR. He's compared to Chase Edmonds, who I believe is RB37. He's only seeing about a 30% opportunity share, comparable with about James Robinson, Myles Gaskin, comparable with Chris Carson. But Chris Carson obviously plays on a much better offense. And so how do we evaluate this going forward? He's not seeing red zone targets. He's basically a plodder. And without that 69-yard touchdown run in garbage time, he would be significantly lower in these rankings heading into Week 7. And so in my opinion, if you can find an owner, and this is where knowing Dynasty is very, very important, getting ahead of things, especially when it comes to your trade deadline, because you don't want to have an instance where you're the last team to really blow it up. You want to be the first, because then you're going to have the most suitors for your team. You need to start evaluating your team now. You have had 6 weeks. You should be able to know, is your team a contender or is it a pretender? If you're kind of in between due to injuries and these other things, you really need to evaluate that and see, am I at least scoring points? Do I have potential when this all comes around, when Christian McCaffrey comes back, when Nick Chubb eventually comes back? These are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself, because if you sell too late, like for instance the same week as the deadline, you're going to be really struggling. And Kenyon Drake is a player, especially this week, that may be able to get you a hefty return, even in Dynasty, because he had such a great performance. But the truth is, he's really not getting the opportunities that we expect from a guy who can garner a first, second round pick, can really be a league winner. And that's where I think, even though his stock is up a little bit, it's still depressed overall on this season, and for good reason. And I don't see a reason why it would go up unless he has spectacular games over and over. But given his opportunity share, considering he's not seeing that many red zone carries, especially goal line carries, and to have a TD Vulture and Kyler Murray taking away those opportunities from him, that makes it even harder for him to score touchdowns, and really what's going to help to boost his value overall. I would be selling Kenyon Drake despite his stock going up a little bit. Don't be fooled by that big touchdown run. It really doesn't mean much other than it won some people a few weeks and it lost some people a few weeks. Fortunately for me, it won me a week, and I'm happy about that. But I'm still overall trying to sell Kenyon Drake in Dynasty if I can, because his value has been so up and down, and for the most part, it's just been sliding down steep because he hasn't gotten it done for teams. He's just kind of running into the hole, and he gets stopped in about 3 or 4 yards. It's rare he breaks off that big run, and obviously he was against Dallas. Like, what else do we expect from one of the league's worst defenses? He should be having these big games, and so it shouldn't come to a surprise, and it shouldn't then boost his value in Dynasty. He's still very low as far as his Dynasty outlook goes, especially considering he's only on a 1-year deal and maybe on a new team next season. I think it's time to cash in on that value for Kenyon Drake. Now, in the intro, I talked about Deandre Swift, and it was amazing to finally see a breakout game from the star running back out of Georgia. The first-year running back had an excellent game, and while it was against the Jaguars, it was great to see him finally get some opportunities. Now, for those unaware, in the first 4 weeks of the season, Deandre Swift only saw 28 total potential opportunities, which is insane for a player who is so supremely talented as Deandre Swift was. Coming out of the bye week, you see he was given 18 total opportunities and had over 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. People wanted to make that Alvin Kamara comp to Swift, And while I wasn't entirely on board with that, it's funny to see how things work out because he goes to the Lions. The Lions have Kerryon Johnson there, basically a plotter, do nothing with him. He's basically, his value is completely gone now, so Swift's going to take over. Oh wait, they signed Adrian Peterson, just like the Saints brought in Adrian Peterson when Alvin Kamara was the lead back there. And now heading into week 6, the Lions say, you know what, enough of this. We drafted this guy. We had our bye week to retool, reconfigure our offense, and Deandre Swift is going to get a greater workload going forward. Look for Deandre Swift to make a massive impact for your dynasty rosters heading forward. Like I said, in the first 4 weeks, he only had 28 total opportunities and had 18 in week 6 alone. Based on his performance and just his skill level, I'd expect him to drastically rise in Dynasty. Even still, Swift's value was really, really low coming into this week because he just wasn't seeing the touches. And while we all hope that he can get things figured out in the bye week and the team can figure out ways to use him, you don't always see it. And even J.K. Dobbins was getting touches during the game. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor are balling out. Even if they're not doing as good as we hope, they're still getting the workload, they're still getting the touches. And Swift was the one who was kind of the lowest value, who wasn't doing very well. And now this basically vaults him up to almost number 1, number 2. If he's going to be seeing this kind of workload and produce at this level, he's going to be right up there with J.K. Dobbins, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, with Jonathan Taylor as weekly starts and the guy you're going to want in your lineup. In Dynasty, I still think that if you can buy Swift for a reasonable price, you should, because he's here to stay. He's an elite talent, and in my opinion, he shouldn't have dropped to the second round in the NFL draft. I'm not really sure what team saw in him that didn't want to pay him that extra draft capital, especially when you think about getting that extra year under contract with the 5th-year option. Swift is a supremely talented running back and arguably one of the best running backs in this draft class. Really, the only one who is better as a pure runner is Jonathan Taylor. But other than that, Swift is the best combo back. He can catch the ball to the backfield. He can run between the tackles, and he can do everything you need. I would be buying up Deandre Swift if I can. The price will be hefty, but if you can unload a running back like Ezekiel Elliott, I would be considering that because his value is going way down right now. You look at how Andy Dalton and the Dallas Cowboys performed. You see reports coming out that the coaching staff isn't prepared for games. Without Dak Prescott, he's not going to be able to perform as well as he could. We saw how Arizona treated him. They stacked the box against him. That's a flip where you can get younger and potentially get more production for a player with more perceived value and make that swap. Deandre Swift could be a league winner for you, and Zeke may be a guy who kind of fades throughout the rest of the season. Coming into next year, it's just another year under his belt. It's more touches. When is he going to fade off? And that's one thing that you do have to be careful of in Dynasty. These running backs see a lot of touches, and eventually that production starts to drop off. When's that going to be for Zeke? We don't know, but trading off a Zeke for a Swift plus is a move that makes you get younger, and while he plays for the Lions, he's going to see a lot of production even in his next few years in the NFL playing for the Detroit Lions. Now, the last guy I wanted to touch on is Mike Williams, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, the Chargers have looked great, especially with Justin Herbert at the helm. They just haven't been able to translate it into wins. Now, what does that mean for Mike Williams? Mike Williams is a player who is an air yards machine. In limited work this season, he already has over 350 air yards. He's just behind Keenan Allen right now. And in that Saints game in week 5, we saw what happened when Keenan Allen got hurt. It was the Mike Williams show. Justin Herbert was looking for him every single time he needed a play made, especially in the fourth quarter to push that game to overtime. Mike Williams was the guy who got it done. And you're seeing that chemistry start to build between the two. Now coming out of the bye week, it allows Mike Williams to really have a bit more time to heal, more time for them to work on that chemistry. And I could see Mike Williams having an exceptional role going forward. Now, I was looking at their strength of schedule, and it's looking very favorable for all the Chargers, Justin Herbert included, and Williams, because they're facing 8 of 11 teams that are 20th or below in total defense. So 20th in the NFL or below in total defense is who the Chargers face 8 out of the next 11 games throughout the rest of the season. Now, I'm no math major, but that is a very striking statistic for me and means I want to start buying up some of these wide receivers on the Chargers offense, knowing that Justin Herbert's going to air it out all season long. That means Keenan Allen's a buy. That means Mike Williams especially is a buy. And if you can get him off waivers, even better, because he just came off the bye week. So he may be on your waivers because someone had to drop him in a pinch. And if you can trade for him, especially in Dynasty, he's a guy who's always seen great volume and can make exceptional plays down the field. He's going to stretch the field. He's going to score touchdowns. He can do it all on that offense. And I think Justin Herbert's going to like him a lot, especially if Keenan Allen is hurt in the coming weeks. That we're not sure about. But regardless, I would still be buying up Mike Williams in Dynasty because it might finally be the time that we see that true Mike Williams breakout. We saw it last year where he had 1,000 yards but limited touchdowns. This could be the year that we see it all come together. And so make sure you go buy up Mike Williams, sell Kenyon Drake, and if you can, buy Deandre Swift. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. I'm going to be going through the comments and answering some questions from some of our viewers. Drop it a like if you like this video. Follow me on Twitter at @chaboyjrich. You can check out more of my content on YouTube at Destination Devy. And until next week, I'm out. Peace.